Hey, this is Jeremy, and we need to talk about the records I bought at a record store, record shopping recently here in Osaka, Japan. So a few days ago, I went to two different record stores here in Osaka. One of them I had been to before, one of them I had never been to before. So here's what I got. First of all, the first one is the reason I went record shopping that day. I had been to this store, it's called Redbone Records. And I had been to it about a month ago, and I got a couple things, but one thing, there were two records there that I saw that I didn't buy, and they kind of gnawed on me, so I had to go back and buy them. And the first one is this, Open Road. This is the same band, Open Road, that did the record Open Road with Donovan in 1970. This is the band's follow-up album without Donovan. So it's kind of like Crazy Horse put out an album without Neil Young, basically the same thing. This is the one that I saw in the record store when I was there a few weeks ago, and it was a little bit expensive, and I'd never heard it. I don't have any idea what it sounded like, so I didn't buy it. Then I was thinking, I should have bought it. I never see that anywhere. So I went back, and they still had it. It was about $30, $35, something like that. I didn't preview it first on YouTube or anything. I didn't listen to it. I didn't see would I like it. I just took the chance. And I still haven't heard it, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, Open Road. Got the same logo as on the Donovan record, but without Donovan. So does it still have the same kind of, oh, there's a cool gatefold. That's cool. Does it still have the same kind of loose, kind of watery, laid-back, hippie, kind of groovy vibe to it? Is it the same exact band? I don't know. But anyway, there you go. The other thing they had there that I wanted was, that I didn't buy the first time, was Atom Heart Mother by Pink Floyd. I have a copy of that on vinyl. I bought it on Discogs maybe a year ago, and it was supposed to be the original 1970 UK pressing, and it wasn't that much. So I bought it, and when it came, I looked at the dead wax and stuff and found that it was actually a 1975 or something UK pressing, and it doesn't sound good. I'm not an audiophile. I don't really care what things sound like, as long as they're okay, but even I can tell it was very muffled sounding, so I want something better than that. And I was going to buy that because I had a Japanese pressing there. But I went back to buy Open Road, the Pink Floyd was gone. So I'm still stuck with my 1975. Okay, the other thing, as I was going through the other stacks there, was this. Steve Hackett, Defector. Steve Hackett, of course, the guitarist in the 1970s for Genesis. Yeah, that's right. I know he has a lot of sort of well-regarded solo albums. I've never heard any of them. They just had this there. It was like $10, which is about as cheap as it gets here in Japan. So we'll see what it sounds like. It's from 1980, I think. Steve Hackett, Defector. I don't know if it's like pop music. I don't know if it's like spacey music. I don't know if it's all like guitar heavy. I don't know what it is, but worth trying. Then I've been on this Lead Belly thing. I don't have any Lead Belly records, but I used to. I used to have a bunch. I used to have like 1,000 records like 20 years ago, and I sold all of them, got rid of them all, and I'm just getting back into it. And I don't usually want things that I used to own. I want to kind of continue the collection, so I don't want to rebuy my old collection. But I do want some Lead Belly. So they had this little section in this Redbone Records of folk music and blues music and stuff. And I started going through it, and it was actually pretty good. And all of them were like $10, again, which is cheap as it gets. The first one I saw was this. It's called Buddy Moss, Georgia Blues. I'm from Georgia. I've never heard of Buddy Moss, but it says 1930 to 1935, including the Georgia Cotton Pickers and the Georgia Browns. Those are the two bands, I guess. And it just looked really cool. And I was like, well, if you live in Georgia and you go all the way to Osaka and you find a record called Georgia Blues by somebody called Buddy Moss, you buy it. I like the vibe of it. It looked pretty cool. So there's also this note on the back about, somebody wrote this note about, on other Buddy Moss compilations, they have the speeds all wrong from the old 78 records, but we have listened to it and we figured out that this song must be in F sharp, so it must be a little bit flat. So we tweaked the speeds on some of these. This is the only time that Buddy Moss's songs have been heard at the correct speeds. So I don't know if that's true. That's cool. Then they had this, the Immortal Charley Patton. This is on what? Origin Records. It's not Leadbelly, but Charley Patton, I think, I don't know as much about Charley Patton as I do Leadbelly, but he kind of had the same vibe. He's kind of like a lot of, not just blues, but folk and like whatever. Any music was okay. He'd play anything, you know. So anyway, obviously a very legendary guy, and this was a cool collection of stuff, $10. And then this one, Texas Alexander on the Matchbox label. I never heard of Texas Alexander, but this is 1927 to 1928, Volume 1, the complete recordings in chronological order. So we'll see what that's like. They did have, I think, 2 and 3 there, Volume 2 and 3. So if I like this, I'll go back and get those others maybe. So that was all for the first shop, and I was happy about that. And then there was another one nearby. And this store was called Hanky Panky Records. And so I went in there, and it was a small little room. Most of the record stores I've been to here, like small little rooms. A lot of bins packed very tightly. I had to remove a bunch so I could flip through them in each bin. They're very super organized by genre. They're big into genres and classification here in Japan. So if you want Donovan, don't go looking in the pop section or the psych section. It's in the British folk section. Not the American folk section. They're different. Anyway, so I looked through a bunch of the sections I thought I would like, and this is what I got. Great stuff there. First of all, Bubble Puppy, A Gathering of Promises. I only know the song Hot Smokin' Sassafras. I've always wanted to hear this album. This is a 1999 Italian issue on 180 gram pure virgin vinyl, it says. We will see. See if it's any good. I'm very happy to get this. It wasn't that much, $15, maybe $15 or $20. I like the fact that on the credits on the back, somebody gets a clothing design credit. I guess that's for that. Evelyn Norton Anderson. She should get a clothing design. This is an awesome, awesome album cover. And if it's anything like Hot Smokin' Sassafras, anything on the International Artist label, I think is worth getting. Okay, then this, Focus, Hamburger Concerto. All I know about Focus is Hocus Pocus, which is awesome, of course. I know they're very well regarded as kind of this symphonic kind of prog group or something, so I thought I would try this. Wasn't that much. Gatefold. It's one of those stupid Dynaflex where the record is on the inside. So I really think that's irritating, but Hamburger Concerto, Focus. Okay, I'm a big Jefferson Airplane fan. I've long considered myself a big Jefferson Airplane fan. I know so many of their albums. Volunteers is one of my probably top 10 favorite albums of anybody of all time. I love Surrealistic Pillow the same as everybody else does. I love Crown of Creation and After Bathing at Baxter's. I never actually heard Bark and Long John Silver. Somehow those just escaped me. I bought Bark a few months ago and I liked it. And so I got Long John Silver at this store the other day at Hanky Panky. So this was, I guess, their final album before they split up and became Jefferson Starship. This, the cover's not in great shape. It opened up, opens up and there's like cigars printed on the inner sleeve. It's a thin grunt label. It's got all this stuff. You're supposed to make like a cigar box out of it. Somebody did that, and now it's all taped back together and stuff. So the cover was not in great shape, so it was discounted. And I thought, hey, good enough for me. So I don't really care, as long as the record looks okay, and the record does look okay. So I like, I got the Baron von Tolbruth and the Chrome Nun record from 1973. I think that was kind of, not the same thing, but it was kind of like around the same time. So I love the vibe of that record, with Paul Kantner and Grace Slick and the other people who were on it. This is actual Jefferson Airplane with Papa John Creech and stuff. So very looking forward to this. I hope it's weird. Everything they did was pretty weird. Okay, now this store also had a blues section, also very good, blues and folk, and I got Cannon's Jug Stompers. I know 2 of these songs because it's on Harry Smith's Anthology of American Folk Music, Minglewood Blues and Featherbed, I think. Those are great. So this is just more stuff. There's Gus Cannon right there, I believe. So this is on the Roots label. I don't know how official this is, or maybe they just maybe anybody was able to. It's kind of thin, kind of flimsy, but I'm not expecting much as long as it's taken from old 78s and reasonably sounds okay. Fine with me. Okay, Traffic. Traffic's, I think this is their second album, just called Traffic. Is that right? I've always wanted their first two albums because I heard them vaguely like 15 years ago, but I don't really remember them, but I know I liked them. This is a Japanese pressing from, what is this? 1980. So the album came out in 69, I think. This is from 80. So it's got this obi, kind of. Usually an obi is just a paper sleeve that goes around here, wraps all around. But this is not really that. I think it's supposed to be like this. It's sort of just a paper with a flap. There's Steve Winwood. They make a big deal out of Steve Winwood on here. So, all the lyrics, perhaps not correct, because they're often incorrect on these Japanese issues. But we'll see. Anyway, so there's no obi as far as I know. I think I looked online a little bit after I got this, and I don't think there ever was an obi. It's just this. So that's kind of interesting. See what's inside. Something else, I guess. I don't know if this is in the original or not, but this paper. Picture on one side, and then a note from Jimmy Miller, handwritten note, or copied handwritten note from Jimmy Miller on the other side. So that's cool. I kind of like the 60s psychedelic stuff. That's mainly what I'm looking for these days, and all days. So this is kind of, it's a little bit jazzier maybe, a little more pop, but it's got Feeling All Right on it, so let's see what that's like. And then I still got to find the first album. I was holding out for like originals, but they're kind of expensive. So to get a Japanese pressing from 1980, that's not too much money, $15 maybe. That's pretty cool. Okay, Small Faces. I don't really know much about the Small Faces. All I know is Ichiku Park and Little Tin Soldier, both of which I love. I used to have this album back in the day, but I had it with a different cover, like a more brown kind of pleasant little cover. This is like this, I think this is, what is this? I believe this is a German issue from the mid-70s. Originally came out in 69. Yeah, Germany. This is like a double album, kind of greatest hits and some unreleased stuff that they did right after the band broke up, something like that. There they are. So I never really heard the album when I had it back in the day. It's one of those that I bought somewhere for probably $5, and I never really listened to it. Maybe once, but I don't remember it. So now I'm gonna right that wrong and listen to it here. This cover reminds me a lot of Off the Record by Sweet. I don't know if that's really appropriate for the sound of the Small Faces. It's a very bloody and violent thing, but hey. Okay. 4 or 5 months ago, I bought a Steve Hillage record. I don't know much about him, but I'd heard of him. It was called, what was it called? Fish Rising, something like that. And I thought it was amazing. So I found this one, Motivation Radio, which has a different kind of vibe, looks more new agey, but I bought this, another Steve Hillage. I hope it's pretty cool. It looks pretty cool. He's got tarot cards and kind of Egyptian hieroglyphs or something like that on the back. I don't know what that is, but sounds good to me. A sunset with a radio telescope on it. Does not fade away. So, hope that's cool. Let's see what's next. Yes. Okay, next. The Kaleidoscope. I'll tell you my Kaleidoscope story. This is their third album. It's called Incredible. Their first album was called Side Trips, and I absolutely adore that album. I got to know that album in the 90s because I had the 8-track tape. In the mid-90s, I'd spent several years listening really only to 8-track tapes in the car and records at home. So I had all these great 8-track tapes. One of them I had was Side Trips, and I bought it in some like a flea market, and it was amazing. I love it. Their second album, I had A Beacon from Mars. I had that on an Edsel reissue from the 80s. I had that. That was really cool. Those are the only two that I had physically myself. So I've heard this album. I think I got it off Napster 20 years ago. So I've heard it, but I don't really remember it because I never owned it physically. I guess that's why I like physical records and CDs and tapes and stuff, because when you hold it in your hand, you really own the music. So I'm looking forward to hearing this because I love the first two albums, especially Side Trips. But there's a great eclectic kind of folk band with like world instruments, like, you know, non-traditional instruments, non-traditional for a Western rock band. Great stuff, great stuff. And I think the original album cover, this is also an Edsel reissue from the late 80s, 88 or something. I think the original cover was just this half of this picture, and maybe that was the back cover. Actually, I guess Edsel took it upon themselves to do this re-mock-up of it, but I kind of like that. I think it's pretty cool. Looks pretty cool. The late 80s was a good time for psychedelic 60s reissues. Anyway, okay, one of my favorite albums that I've never had on vinyl, another one I got to know on 8-track actually. This is a Japanese pressing of Lola by the Kinks. Also, my favorite Kinks album and one of my favorite albums of all time. I've heard it a billion times. I used to listen to that 8-track tape over and over and over when I was driving around. My job at the time was driving around for a newspaper delivery company, and so I heard lots and lots of music every single day. I often heard this. Never had the vinyl. I may have had the CD. I don't remember. Anyway, now I've got this vinyl. This is a Japanese pressing. There's the OB from 1983, I think. It's a 1983 Japanese pressing, and I'm just happy to have a vinyl copy of this. It's got the usual, the Japanese language insert explaining the history of the band and I guess of this album, and then the lyrics in English. This is one that I probably knew the best of this batch. Most of these I don't actually know that well. That's kind of the point. Which brings me to the last one. I know this one very well too. It's Pink Floyd, More. I've never had this on vinyl. I had the CD back in 1990 or 91 or so. I bought all the Pink Floyds on on CD. At that time, as far as I knew, I was the only person in the world who'd ever heard of this album or heard the album. Turns out that's not true. Some other people heard it too. This is kind of a holy grail, just because I've been looking at, like, somebody reissued More recently on vinyl, and I think I like the album so much. It's such an unusual album. No Pink Floyd album sounds like any other Pink Floyd album. They all sound totally different if you think about it. So there's parts of this that are kind of like Saucer Full of Secrets, but not really. It's not at all like Ummagumma. It's not really like any parts of Atom Heart Mother. It's just its own thing. It's a soundtrack. I love the I don't know. I don't want to get into the album. But anyway, this is a Japanese pressing from 1974, actually. So it's very, very cool. It's got this gatefold, and it's got a picture of the band here. It's got the song titles listed and translated into Japanese. Dramatic theme is called aromatic theme, although the Japanese is actually correct for dramatic. What's cool is I've never seen the movie More. I don't know what it is. I guess it's German or French. It's got this cool kind of color booklet with it. I don't know if they all did. I know this one does. Looks like a very kind of hippie, druggy kind of movie. Some kind of explanation maybe about the movie in Japanese. I don't really read Japanese, so I haven't read that. More. And then it's got not all the songs, but some of the songs, their lyrics, and they're just transcribed by ear, and they're completely wrong. And it's kind of amusing. I was standing by the Nile when I saw the Navy smile. I'm pretty sure it's when I saw the lady smile. Maybe it is Navy. Anyway, so I have this on vinyl. This is so amazing. And it's pretty good. It's like $20, and it's good shape. I did listen to this, and it sounds perfect. The label here is all got some stains and stuff on it, but I don't care. The Odeon label. Just great. And what thing I like about this is I love the cover of this album. I love the orange and the blue and the green. I love the green stuff on the back. I just think it's great. And it's a cool gatefold. And if I can put this back, the front cover of this and the back cover, I think this might be the last time that Pink Floyd was ever officially on an album called The Pink Floyd. I don't know if that's true, but I don't think they were on Ummagumma at all, which is the next album, right? Anyway, it says here, soundtrack from the film More, played and composed by The Pink Floyd. And on the back, music played and composed by Pink Floyd, no the. And then down here, produced by The Pink Floyd. So they can't really decide what they want to call themselves, but this is The Pink Floyd. I think this is a great album, an undervalued album, an underrated album, and $20. This is Japanese pressing. There's no obi on this one. I don't personally, I like obies because they're kind of an interesting, quirky, kind of, unique thing for albums. But when there used to be an obi and now there is not one, it's good for me because it means the album is usually cheaper because Japanese people, as Western people, want the obi with the album. So if there's no obi, usually it's discounted. This is $20. It's a 1974 Japanese pressing. Sounds great. Those are my albums. A lot to get through, a lot to listen to. I don't have to go record shopping for quite a while now because I'm going to be listening to these and some other stuff I got recently. I got a Julian Cope record from Yahoo Auctions, but I'll talk about that later. So that's my gloriousness. It's about $200 total for all of this, but it should keep me going for who knows how long. A couple months anyway. I've already got the itch. There's a lot of things I want to get, but actually I had some things at the second store, the Hanky Panky, that I was going to buy, but I didn't. They had a New Colony 6 record. I only have one New Colony 6 45 called Things I'd Like to Say, which I love. And I want to get whatever album that had that on it, that 1969 era. This was the New Colony 6 they had at this record store, like a 1965, 1966 compilation or something. So I held off on that. They had Electric Comic Book by Blues Magoos, which I want, but I couldn't tell when it was from or where it was from, so I didn't really trust the pressing, so I didn't buy it. What else? They had a lot of other blues and stuff. So if I ever want more blues, go back there too. All $10 each about. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little trip to the record store with me. Let me know what you think of these decisions I made, and hopefully I can go through most of these one by one and make kind of videos about how they sound and what I think of each one in the future. This will be 30 or 40 years in the future when I get some free time, but hopefully I'll be making some more videos that talk about these records in depth, especially things like this. What is this like? Does it compare to the original? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.